Hello and welcome to another episode of Try Talk. Today with me, as ever, are my two wonderful co-hosts, Aneta Soldati and Scott Anderson. We are really excited to bring you this episode. We will be talking about the XTERRA OC Challenge, otherwise known as XTERRA Germany, or that's kind of what we all refer to it as. This happened a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago at this point. We've been a little late with recording, but we're just going to give you guys a rundown of the course and talk about what happened in the men's and women's races.
Important to say it was also European Championship, XTERRA European Championship.
Yes, so there's a difference between the XTERRA European Championships and the ETU European Championships. These are just sanctioned by XTERRA, so we thankfully this time around we didn't have any issues with bad referees, thankfully. But yeah, let's get onto the course. What was the course like, guys? Maybe if Scott, you're the hometown hero. Could you give us a rundown of what the course was like?
This hometown hero is a bit of an overstatement. I think it's like 4 hours from where I live. Um, Maybe important to add is that it was also German national championships, and it has been for like probably the past 10 years or something. I have no idea. It's always been there. Uh, well, I think the most famous thing about Xterra OZ Challenge is the after party, but maybe we can get to that later on. And the course is around like an old venue that used to be mining. They've got loads of mining equipment around the race area and on the race course, actually. It's a very nice lake that's usually quite warm, so it's basically every year it's without a wetsuit, regardless of weather. And from there on, you go into something that is called the Zittauer Gebirge, I think is what they call it. It's
Yes.
like a medium-sized mountain range, and that really dominates how the bike course feels. To sum it up, I rode the course with Ben Forbes ahead of the race, and he said this course defies gravity because it seems to only go uphill. Um, and it is a lot of like gravel road. It's not super technical, although there are a few technical descents and some technical single trails, but it's a battle of attrition, constantly riding uphill. And at the end of the bike course, everyone's legs are smashed. So that's kind of the defining feature of Exeter Aussie Challenge. And then you got a nice two-loop run course around the lake and some of the forest areas around it with a few little climbs, but I would say compared to other races, it's a fairly flat course, and it allows for fast running. But that doesn't necessarily happen all the time because the legs are pretty messed up from the bike. So I guess that covers it.
The bike is actually quite long compared to other Xterra races. It seems, I think, maybe 4 or 5 kilometers longer than what is normal.
Yeah, I think it's 38K and it's around 1,000 meters of elevation, which very interestingly is quite similar to Xterra Czech because they also have like 1,000 meters, I think.
It
Um,
was 800
but
this year, so a bit less.
right, okay, yeah. I think with the old lake and the long climb
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
beginning,
It
it was
used to
around
be
1,000
1,000. This
meters.
this year was 800. Yeah.
Hmm. But somehow it just feels like more climbing in Zittau. I feel like.
I can say from a perspective of a rookie, I never raced in Germany before, so it was my first time racing this course, and I had the opportunity to see it only once before the race, and it was just so long. I remember thinking like when I had around 19-20K on during the race, and I was thinking only in a half. Like I have to do this again. It just felt so long, and especially the second part, it felt like the downhill sections were so similar. Like they all looked the same, and it was kind of hard to remember what's ahead of me because it just felt like I'm in the same place again and again and again. So it was, I think, for someone who hasn't seen and haven't raced the course before, it was really hard to go hard on a downhill sections because you just like I couldn't remember what it looked like and what to expect. And the uphills were really long and it was hot and it was really hard race.
Yeah, and that's with two of the major technical sections actually being cut out. Because for those of you who
Yeah.
know the course, the Hochwald, which is, well, the culmination of like the first 15K in a long, long climb, it usually goes through like a 3 kilometer long rock garden where everybody has to at some point get off the bike and push. That's out, or that hasn't been in this year. It goes kind of around and it's all rideable. And then one of the final downhills at the Ameisenberg, which we call it, is Ant Hill, has been. It was also like a very long downhill rock garden that's kind of been taken out as well because it was destroyed by farming equipment and it's now relatively easily rideable.
Also, it seemed like some of the pavement or some of the surface had been resurfaced because there was now a lot of new fresh gravel, which I remember doing this course 2 years ago, and it was much slower. It felt like it seemed more rideable in some strange way, although the gravel was quite deep in places, especially because there's a really long approach to the first Hochwald climb, which is kind of the defining climb of a race. It's really long, really hard. I think it comes within the first 40 minutes on the bike is when the riders kind of crest it. Then you guys do this loop around the top of the course, and you come to the second climb where I was also stood on race day. Uh, Me and Aneta actually I did this course in two rides because I was stupid and I accidentally missed out on the second part of the second part of the course. But me and Aneta did a pre-ride together, and it was quite eventful for sadly not the best reasons. First of all, we were going down this really fast downhill, and I was behind Aneta about 2 meters. And all of a sudden, Aneta just abruptly stopped and started turning right. And I was like, holy cow, I am not going to be able to hold on to this. And so I kind of had to shoulder into Aneta, and I almost knocked her off of her bike. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? This was obviously during the pre ride. And then about 3 minutes later, we were riding up a false flat, gravel, non-technical fire road, just chatting. I was out of the saddle, talking to Aneta, and next thing I know, my hand slips off my bars. I go over I go over my handlebars. I land on my hot braking pad from this hot descent. I burn my knee terribly. I bruise my ego even worse. I'm all scraped up, bloodied, and terrible. I think XTERRA has some of the footage because we had one of their GoPros with us. It was just such a bad experience. And then Aneta came back into the car. She was like, "That was such a shit ride. I really hated that." I was like, "At least you didn't crash."
No, I mean, it was 35 degrees the whole week, and I was just so exhausted. And I don't think I ever felt so bad the day before a race. I was just so close to just going home and not doing the race.
And you also had Emichka, who was, I think,
Yeah.
was just it was hard, I think, to take care of Emichka the day before the race as well.
Yeah, well, solo parenting is always difficult, and I had all the support for Extra Check, and then everyone was like, "Oh, now it's done," and we all going on vacations, home, whatever, work, whatever. But yeah, I still had one more race to do, so I was solo for the whole week. I had just had my dad with me in Zittau, but yeah, it was very demanding week.
But your race went pretty well. So we
Yep.
should we should we should talk about the race. Obviously, still the main person missing on the Xterra course this year is still Alize. She is still recovering from her stress fracture. We don't really have any information, obviously, on how that's going because Alize doesn't necessarily share her health on social media every day, which is completely understandable. But
No, I've
uh,
seen I've seen a story that she's coming back to training and
oh,
she should be
awesome.
ready for Molveno.
That's great to see because Molveno's coming up really soon. I think slowly people are maybe even starting to travel over to start doing the course recons. It seems like maybe Hannah is going.
Yeah, Hannah is going.
Okay, so but yeah, we should start with the race. So how was your race, Anita?
But surprisingly good. I don't think I went into race more defeated before, but I just like I couldn't care less. I was just so tired and I was not stressed or nervous at all. I was just like, yeah, I will take whatever happens today. And straight from the start, I went into Isla's feet and I stayed there the whole swim. I'm sorry for all the touching. Sorry, Isla, if you're listening to this. But it just felt so easy. I think I'm starting to prefer non-wetsuit swims. And even started to be worried if we swim fast enough, if this is not too easy, but I was not willing to go in front. So I just stayed there and um, had a really good swim. And then we started to cycle together. We talked to each other. We said, "Hey, let's work together." But same like in Prachetice, we were the change of the rule about drafting in between men and women also applied here. So we were allowed to draft men, and because we started only like 1 minute behind them, we caught some on the swim, and they started to pass us around 5-10K into the bike. So I tried to draft some of them, didn't last very long, but it was good enough to drop Isla. And I felt surprisingly good, much better than XTERRA Czech. And then in the famous uphill that we talked about, uh, Loan Tivoisan, who hasn't raced this season yet, it was her first XTERRA race, passed me, and I had absolutely zero chance to keep up with her. I was looking at my watch and I was doing what would be my goal for the day, and I had I had absolutely no chance.
Yeah, I
She,
think I think she posted her watts. She was sitting like at 280 watts, which I think she's like what 55 kilos maybe, which is just insane.
yeah,
Like, and she was sitting out at that for God knows how long. Obviously, sadly, something she ended up having a mechanical embrace. I don't want to spoil too much. We'll kind of get to that a little bit later. But I was standing at the top of this climb, and um, I want a word of appreciation for my efforts here. Um, I started the race at the same time as you guys did, and at the moment that you guys started, I started sprinting all the way up to the Hochwald on my bike. I did like a 35-minute effort all the way up. I got there. I was completely cooked. It was like a 35-minute FTP test, and but I got to see all the racing, which was awesome. And for the women's race, it was crazy. I was expecting you to see you maybe with Solène and maybe with Loan. I saw Loan, and I think she was a minute ahead of you or something, which was just insane. I was like, what is she cooking? I mean, she just must be on an
yeah, it was
insane
very
level
impressive. Yeah,
for sure. I wonder how sustainable it would have been because it seems to me like she has a history of going out a little bit too hard. Last year in Molveno, that was exactly the case where she and Sandra Meyerhofer actually went out too hard on the first lap. So I'm not. I think there's a small question mark there in terms of sustainability. Also, because I think that her training, which has been focused on road racing, won't give her the fatigue resistance to kind of keep up this type of effort, at least in
mm,
my opinion.
I want to add something to that. So we've heard rumors, or she was on a start line that she's gonna race in Germany. But then she was in St. Moritz, I think, in Switzerland in altitude. And I saw her doing 100K bike ride on Tuesday and like 20K tempo run. So I was like, okay, she's not coming. Like, there is no way she's doing this on Tuesday before the race. And then on Thursday, I believe, she was like, oh, yeah, I'm doing this 9 hours drive to Germany.
Yeah.
So that was her preparation for the race. And
Also,
she has raced 70.3 last weekend. So I
jeez.
think she's not only preparing for Olympic distance triathlon, she was preparing for middle distance.
Yeah, she started. I think she raced San Moritz last week or something. And
Zalamze,
yeah, Zelenze, yeah,
70.3, yeah.
alongside Lukasz Kochasz. Um, but yeah, that's actually true. And something we should have mentioned as well, somebody who we haven't seen on the Xterra circuit, Solène Billois, who on this climb is 90 seconds behind you. What the hell was Aneta cooking? Aneta was also climbing like, as nobody's business. She was behind you with Isla Headley, and she was here at this race. She kind of made the decision a couple days before to come and
Also a bit
surprise everybody.
unexpected.
Yeah, she came and surprised everybody, but that was kind of nice to see. But I didn't understand what was happening at this point in the race. I expected to see Solène ahead with maybe with Loan, maybe with somebody. I didn't expect to see her climbing with Isla. So I was like, okay, either Isla is going way too hard, which I don't think she was. I think she was just having a
No,
really good
but
day.
we had a what, 1.5 minute, 2 minutes gap after the swim.
Yeah, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so. So that
So,
helps.
and this was what, 15K into the bike ride. So
Yeah.
Solon had actually quite a lot to catch up with.
Hmm.
So,
Roughly 40 minutes, I think, for the women is what
yeah.
it was. So, but that was really impressive. So that's what I saw. I just was like, holy cow! Okay, Solen's having a bad day. I think she's out of a race. I remember last year here or 2 years ago she had heat stroke. So, but back to Aneta. Let's continue with her race.
Yeah, well, after like 25K, the course started to feel really long, and um, I just couldn't remember the course. Like, as I said, there were so many single tracks where at the end or at the bottom of the hill you had to take a 90-degree turn and these kind of things, and it just was really hard for me to go full gas when you just don't know what's at the bottom. So I think I was losing quite a lot of time in this part of the course. Then all of a sudden I saw Loan pushing her bike, and I asked if she's okay, and she told me she broke her chain. And soon after that, Solen got with me, and we rode together until the second long hill.
Which is where I saw you again. And
Where you,
so
yeah,
I had this. So this is a hard job to do. So um, when you have two really good friends who are racing each other, what are you supposed to say? When Solène is 10 seconds ahead of Aneta on this climb, I'm like, go both of you, I guess. I mean, who am I supposed to root for? But Solène was leading you by about 10 seconds. I was jumping up and down. I was like, this is the best day ever. Two of my friends are leading. I won't even talk about the men's race yet. I was also very excited about what was happening there. Um, Isla was 1 minute behind you. I was like, what happened to Luan? 1 minute behind her was Marta Mendito. Long story short, I waited there for a couple extra minutes, saw a couple extra women go by, and Luan was nowhere to be seen. I think you communicated to me that she had a broken chain or something like that.
I tried to, but we were going up the steep hill, and I was really out of breath. So I was just trying to say,
Chain broken.
yeah, yeah. I think I said,
Where
Lord,
was this? Was this on
chain.
the? Was this on the second big climb, or was it on the first one?
Yeah. No, it was on a second.
Uh, the steep one.
Yeah. So
No,
I
that's a
just,
stinker.
I was just trying to stay on the bike and not to get dropped by Solan, which already happened at that point. And at the same time, I was trying to tell Oliver that she broke her chain, but I don't think I managed.
Aneta always just communicates with me in like the strangest places on the race. She just like wants to give and receive so much information. It's crazy.
That's true. Yeah.
Like,
Well,
what's going on?
I, you know, I feel like the women's races were of very, uh, like not very often happen to have groups. So I think most of the races we just each of us rides alone, and it can get pretty lonely. And so I'm always like just waiting for the point where I know my dad or you are gonna stand, and I just can't wait to see you and like
The chat
get
shit.
have some interaction.
But speaking of interactions, I want to give a shout out to some of the other people who follow the XTERRA circuit and kind of ride around like I do, kind of supporting the riders. Um, First of all, Luan's partner, who we have this kind of unspoken respect between the two of us, I think, because we obviously, he obviously supports Luan. I ride around the course for Aneta and for Solène, who obviously the girls are kind of rivals to some point, right? Um, and it's just kind of, even though our friends kind of fight against each other within these races, we we do the same thing. We go through the same motions. Same with the I think the coach from Organi Coach,
Stefano.
the Stefano. He also rides around races, shows up at the most random places, and it's just kind of, it's cool to see, right? And so I texted Luan's partner, saying, "Oh, Luan, I think broke her chain." And he started calling me on Instagram, which he had followed me like a minute before, and so I am riding down this hill. I go to pick up my phone, and next thing I see is Luan walking past me. And so in the middle of this race, I am on the phone with Luan's partner. Luan is standing right next to me, and like the three of us are having a conversation in the middle of the race, and I'm like, what is going on? I need to go to get down to the finish, because the men's race and the women's race are both popping off. But it was just wild, and it was really funny, and this like strange moment of tranquility in the middle of all this chaos. But I'll hand it over back to Aneta to
Yeah,
to talk
so
about the run.
but just to continue with this topic, I once we passed the railway, it's about 15K to go, but rather flat and downhill. There was Nico and Luan's boyfriend standing there, so I think they already had that information from Solène, but I repeated it that Luan broke her chain, and um, it seems like she managed, or we know that she managed to fix it. There were different stories about how, but so I'm not really sure. But maybe she got the piece she needed from someone else during the race, and she managed to fix it and managed to finish, which I must say, huge respect, because I would be so defeated and I would give up. But she hasn't, and she managed to finish the race, which is really impressive.
Why did she want to finish? We should also mention that.
I think you need to start in elite to qualify for Molveno, but I'm actually not sure if you're obliged to finish the race.
I also am not sure. I actually
Yeah,
also think it's just that you have to start them.
I
Same
think
with like
I think you just need to start. Yeah,
same with the like when you get the prize money for
World Cup ranking.
some of the
Yeah,
World Cup rankings. Like, you just need to start a few of the races. You don't have to actually
yeah.
finish them.
So you need to do two continental champs, and you need to race in Molveno. And for example, last year, Michela got sick before Molveno,
Hmm.
and he hasn't raced the World Championship race. And I was talking to him, and I was like, why didn't you just start? Like, you just lost all the prize money for the World Cup ranking because you haven't raced.
Did you start in Australia? Maybe you should have just started, also to make yourself
No,
eligible.
no, so there is this year they made an exception, or there is a rule that if you get sick or injured while you're at the venue and like you intended to race, I think they realized, like it doesn't make sense to force someone who is sick or injured to just start the race and then quit. So they allowed, like you can request an exception if you get sick or you become injured. So that's what I did after Australia, after I missed the main race because of pneumovirus. But then I still had the opportunity to race in Oak Mountain and Zittau to get the two continental champs to be eligible for the prize money in the World Cup. So I actually didn't need the exemption in the end. But last year there was not such an exemption, and Michela didn't race the main race, and
Yeah.
so he was not eligible for the prize money.
So he didn't get any prize money?
I don't think so. No.
That's crazy. I mean, somebody should have
Yeah.
told him. I should have told him. Why didn't I tell him?
I mean, he should have think about it.
Yeah, he should have thought about it. Michele, come on, die. Anyway, let's continue with the run. How did the rest of the course unfold?
Well, so Solène dropped me. She finished ahead of me. I I came into the T2 second. I got an information I was around 40 seconds behind Solen. And I didn't have a terrible run, which I think, I mean, not great, not terrible, but I have to consider that a success. I think after I missed so much training in the spring, I am missing a bit of a fatigue resistance and endurance. So um, it's not that I am a bad runner, I just can't run after such a long time in the race. Um, so I think I'm pretty happy with the way I run. I managed to hold on the second place, and I'm pretty happy with that. Ayla had a very good run as well. She finished third,
Mhm.
and Marta came fourth, right?
Marta came fourth,
Yeah,
and Noemi Bogiato came fifth, which is
very
just
impressive. Yeah.
insane. And she had a really good run. I think she had one of the fastest runs in the field. Um, the fastest run in the field was, I'll continue in the order. Sixth was Carrie Ann Upham. Again, really strong performance from her. I mean, she's been really stringing together some really impressive results. Um, Loan de Vizon comes back, posts a run that is 5 minutes, I think, faster than the next fastest person.
Yeah, and faster than Scott.
Was she
or,
faster than Scott?
or a similar time, wasn't it?
But okay.
I didn't
I
check. I
will
have
say
no idea.
this. I will say this. It's really hard to kind of judge the quality of that run because she was fresh. I mean, she had, an hour long walk before the run. That kind of has to count as some sort of recovery.
I'm not sure if I walk with a bike in 30 degrees it is a recovery. Like
Okay.
her run was impressive, and um, she also raced Swiss national championship in Olympic distance triathlon, and she posted the fastest run with Julie Deron in the race.
That's
Olympic
crazy.
medalist from Paris.
That's
And
crazy.
she had a fastest split in that race. And she had a second fastest running split in Zalamza at the 70.3 Ironman Pro Series with Kate Matthews, who is one of the best runner in Ironman.
Yeah.
I think she was only 10 seconds faster. She
Yep.
ran 1:19 half marathon.
It was crazy. I mean,
So
Luan's running like crazy.
there is no doubt her running form is just so good.
Do you guys know who the second fastest runner in the women's field was?
Karina Vassla.
Marina Vossel in seventh place. That's crazy. That is just incomprehensible. Somebody who sadly didn't have a particularly good run was Emma. She said she had some trouble breathing on the run. She had a good bike actually, but she comes in eighth. Morgan Ryu comes in ninth. Am I saying this right? And was Hannah's 10th? I don't. I
I
think there was an
can't
age grouper between them,
I
right, or
can't
something.
remember. But I just want to add Karina Vassla, I've heard that she wants to do trail running, like ultra trail running.
Oh, really?
So I think that would explain her running the fast split, because if
Ah,
that's
yeah.
her focus this year, then um but yeah, she always been very good runner, so I'm not so surprised.
I need to figure out these results. Yeah, Morgan Ryu is in 10th, and so Solen first, Aneta second, Isla third, Marta fourth, Noemi Bogato fifth, Carrie Ann Upham sixth, Luan seventh, Karina eighth, Emma De Croo ninth, and Morgan Ryu closing out the top 10. Hannah was a bit disappointed with her 11th place. I don't know if she should be necessarily too disappointed. This was a strong, really strong field. I think all the ladies here were like really, really on point. So I think this coming 11th here is also really impressive. So, but she misses out on the top 10 by, I think, what is this? Like 28 seconds or something. So I understand that might sting a little bit, but it's part of the game to some extent. But let's talk about the men's race. Scott, you are our resident man. What happened in the men's race?
Yeah, last time I checked, I was. What have yeah, what happened in the men's race? I don't know. It's hard to say what happened at the front because I didn't really see them. I know that I came
But you
out.
did for one important section. But you did for one
Well,
important section.
yeah, well, I'll run you through what I saw, then you fill us in with the rest. Um, so I got out of the swim with The usual suspects I was around. Zebi, Kieran was there, a a couple of French and Italian people that I don't actually know. And then we like formed a group pretty quickly with Arthur Forestier, Ben and Jens came from the back, so they must have come out the water just behind us, and we kind of had like a group must have been seven, eight, nine people going towards like the entry of the forest. So the
which is
first part of
huge.
the bike course is just like fire road, a bit of road, actual paved road through a village. Then it goes up one really steep climb to like a little a barn that's full of clocks, which we call the Uhrenhof. It's got clocks everywhere. Um, and on that hill, it was when some part of the group just exploded because Jens and I think Arthur put on like quite a bit of pressure.
For
Some
sure.
people did follow, and then Zebi and me, I know, fell out the back because it's just too much. Yeah, and then I rode a bit with Zebi. He had a bit of a bad day at the beginning. I did actually r ride away from him, which was very
You,
unusual. But
you rode
then
away from Sebi Neff? No way.
I I did. But then he came back and passed me on the big climb, the Hochwald, that famous climb that we spoke about before. Yeah, and from there on, it was kind of yeah, time trial. I did ride the most of the course on my own. Um, Pulled a Polish guy, Jan Schranowski. I don't know if I pronounced the name properly. Probably not.
I don't know if I could do a better job.
Yeah. I pulled him along for quite a bit. Yeah, and then no idea what happened at the front. And same for the run, really.
Yeah. But you guys out of the swim, I think you guys came out with about a 90-second gap on the. So there were two big groups. Kind of the first group of favorites wasn't like a solo guy like Michele or somebody. It was my favorite French goat, Emile Bilot, and Michele Bonacina. They were leading the group, but Felix was in there. There were a bunch of other guys in there. It was quite a big group. And then you guys came out with a 90-second gap, but there were just so many strong Uber bikers, Ben, Sebi, Jens, Artur, who just worked together to manage to bridge to this first group. Um, and so where I was standing on the top of the Hochwald, I was expecting maybe to see Jens with maybe a 2 minute gap on the guys or maybe a 1 minute gap behind him. But he's been riding so well this year that he actually was in the group with them. This was I was so
He was
excited. I
in the
was
group
jumping.
with Arthur and Felix on the Hochwald.
Yeah, on the Hochwald, on the top of the Hochwald,
Shit.
he was with both Arturs and with Felix, and he was pulling that group. And I was like, "Holy cow, it's gonna kick off! This is
This is what I love if we do the podcast. I learned so much about the race that I didn't actually know before. So brilliant. Really, so he must have ridden really hard with Arthur to
yeah,
close
with
that gap.
Artur, yeah, and Artur
Jesus.
always helps him. It seems like he's the only guy who is kind of who swims with him, who is able to bike with him. But it seems to me like Artur always blows himself up a little bit by kind of trying to bridge with him. But
But from a race perspective, it makes sense. I think it's not that Arthur's the only one who's willing to help him. It's just he's
mhm,
the only one that's actually
who
able to
can?
bike with him, you
Yeah,
know. Because
yeah,
for
for
him it
sure.
makes sense to get into the front group as well.
For sure. And
Yeah,
Artur was
crazy.
really strong further on in the bike as well. Because when you come to the second uphill where I was standing, the steep, long uphill that we were talking about in the women's race, Jens was leading the race, and I could not believe what I was seeing. This was the first time I had seen something like this. Jens leading on the bike. He was 25 seconds ahead of Artur Serrier. Artur Serrier was second on the bike, and I did not understand the world of
Do we know
triathlon.
where that group split?
I think it's split. He was saying he got a split on one of the downhills. And at some point, he was like, okay, don't look back. I know Oliver is going to be on one of these climbs up here, and I'm just going to motor all the way up and get the time gap there. And I think it's important that the whole group split. Like it wasn't all the guys didn't stay together. And I think in terms of power, these guys are all, especially if it's drafting, all these guys are able to, I think, sit on his wheel, which I think will be important coming from Molveno because Molveno is just like a pure power race. But in terms of technical abilities, he was able to drop him on some of these, fast corners. I imagine maybe the corner where I bumped into you was helpful. Jens also said that once he had a gap, like maybe just 5 or 10 seconds, it was also really helpful to see the moto in front of him, because the moto, especially like in this corner that you saw, you can see how the moto takes the corner, and you understand when the corner is coming, and you don't necessarily have to remember it, and it's a little bit less mental energy that you're having to spend.
But so the men had a motor in front of
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
We didn't have that.
yeah. Because you're trying to clear the course, obviously. Like I think there's two motos that go, one of them quite far and one not too far ahead of the riders. But Arthur was 25 seconds behind Jens. The second Arthur Forisier, was out climbing his brother. I don't know if he's older or younger. I think younger. He was out climbing his brother. He was another 40 seconds behind Arthur, so over a minute behind Jens. And Felix was 10 seconds dropping off of Artur's wheel. And I could not, I was like, holy cow, what is happening? Jens then actually put on the gas again on the final descent into town. And he pulled out this gap to, I think, coming into T2, he had 1 minute and 22 seconds on Artur. So he gained an extra minute on the descent. That's huge. Like, that's just so much time. And he's just able to ride these technical sections better than these guys. That's his main advantage. And the two Foresier brothers actually come into transition only 5 seconds apart, around 2 minutes down. And then we see this running race between Artur and between Jens, and Artur slowly starts clawing back Jens. I remember, he came into transition with 1 minute and 20 seconds, and I came in on I think the second run lap, and he was only like 40 seconds behind him, and I was like, oh my god, he's gonna catch him. This is just like exactly what he needs. I was just so scared, and I was also running around the course trying to give Jens gaps, screaming at him, go, go, go. And there were these two French girls, I think, who were also running around giving gaps to Artur. And it was just like, it was so much energy. It was so awesome. Jens is actually able to pull it off. And for the first time, he's able to beat Artur Serrier, Artur Frisier, Felix, when nothing goes wrong for these guys. He was better on the day. Nothing happened to the course. Nothing was alternated. He beat him head on. Fair game. This was the first time this has happened, and I was so impressed.
I think he benefited out of the longer course, obviously on the bike, and how hard the bike course actually was. I don't think he minds the hot days neither. I think he's the body type that can just deal with the heat.
And the run course, I think, suited him
and
as well.
And the run course was kind of flatter and fast, so
yeah,
good day for him.
I think it was the blue hair.
Yeah, so talk about the blue hair, Scott. What are we talking about?
Well, I don't actually know why or I know how it happened, but Jens was staying with Kieran, and Kieran's been this season known for slightly deranged hairstyles, which he improved when he came to XTERRA Czech by dyeing the back of his already messed up head blonde. And then Jens dyed his hair blonde, which was like kind of yellowish. And then on race he just turned up with his hair blue, which must have been a good sign because the European champion jersey was blue this year. So I guess it was. It was
a good fit, yes.
Yeah.
Aneta's dad saw him with the blue hair kind of running into the finish line. He was like, wait, this is Jens? And he was just like completely shocked. And it was super
He shaved it off now, I think. I saw on
yeah, he has.
Unfortunately. I think it was really nice.
I think it wasn't that bad, actually.
Yeah. You should go with blue hair for Molveno.
I should.
Let me just get this out before I actually forget this, because I thought about this while you were talking about the second part of the bike, Oliver.
Hmm.
I find it very interesting how throughout the season, like the race dynamics or kind of the composition of the top 10 has really changed because I feel like now that we've had two classically European races with like not technically extremely difficult courses, which are kind of, suit people like Zibinet, for example, who can push a lot of power. Um,
Hmm.
we've seen other people rise and so on. And I was thinking it'll be very interesting to see how this turns out in Molveno because it's kind of a bit of both. It's basically a two-lap course that is one long uphill that's just like, yeah, just have to put the power down, and then
Hmm.
completely down the mountain again through a bike park with all sorts of different technical sections which would suit more technically viable mountain biker
Hmm.
kinds of people, I
I
guess.
think it will really depends on how muddy the course is, because if
Yeah.
the downhill is dry, it's actually not that hard. But if it's muddy, then it makes both the climb and the descent technical.
Yeah, I don't think it's super hard necessarily, but I feel like what I'm specifically thinking is last year we saw Arthur Serrier and Felix basically ride together for the whole course. But
Hmm.
uh, say someone like Ben comes in, who's I don't I don't think Ben he's a really fast biker, but I don't think he's one of the really fast bikers because he just puts down the biggest power. I mean, don't get me wrong, he puts down a lot of power, but he's also very
Hmm.
good at riding efficiently and smoothly. And I could see, like, hypothetically, you get a big group that goes up the climb with the French people, Jens and Ben, and so on. I could very easily see someone like Ben putting in a bit of a gap on the downhill or breaking the group up maybe because he's just that
Hmm.
little bit better from a technical standpoint. Does that make sense
Last
in any
year,
way, or am I just rambling on here?
for sure.
Yeah, no,
No,
totally.
no, no, totally. I think it's a great point. Yesterday, I was out for a walk and I was just thinking about this. I was like, I really hope it rains in Molveno because that's I think that just helps Jens so much.
I don't want rain.
It makes it so much more technical. But on your point, Scott, last year, Jens, I think, was riding a full suspension. And on the downhill on our tour, who was riding no dropper and a hardtail, he made up 0 time, which is insane. So,
Yeah,
and
crazy.
I don't know, I genuinely don't understand how that's possible. You know, um, I don't understand how that's possible because Jens is just, he's clearly better than these guys on these downhills. But I think this year we'll probably see a similar dynamic. I imagine more guys might actually choose to go for a hardtail as opposed to a full sus.
I don't
Who
think
Um,
who
so.
can who has the money to have two bikes?
Artur Serrier.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. We've had the hardtail discussion even in the first year, and I know that Jens rode a hardtail the first year, and then afterwards he was like, "Oh, this is a full suspension course all the way." But
Really?
I mean, let's keep this maybe for the next episode after World Champs, and we can retroactively analyze this. I was just putting
We'll do a
out that
preview.
yeah, we could do maybe during the week we can do a
We'll do a
preview.
preview. We'll do a preview. Yeah,
Yeah, I think once we have the start list, we can do that.
because all of us will be in Molveno. Wink, wink. And so we should be able to do a preview. I'd also love to do a couple of interviews with a couple of other athletes, just to see how everybody's thinking ahead of a race and how everybody's feeling. Then we'll probably do a recap of the short track on Friday, I imagine, because that Friday's off and the short track is on Thursday, and
It
then
depends
Saturday's
how
the
it
big race.
goes, you know? Like if I have a
Ah,
bad race, yeah, I'm not gonna be in the
you
mood.
just won't participate.
But what we could also do, I'm going to be there with Hannah 2 weeks before the race, so we could even before race week have a little preview, and I could give you some insight on how the course is and so on, and then give wrong information to all of my competitors.
Let me run down the top 10 for the men really quickly. because I want to give a couple shout outs for good performances. Jens Emil wins the race ahead of Artur Syrier. Awesome result by Jens. Really happy to see it. Felix Frazier in third. Artur Frazier in fourth. Kieran McPherson in fifth. First of the humans. That's crazy. That's just wild. What a performance by Kieran. Federico Spinazze in sixth. I'm so excited for Fede. Sebinev in seventh, winning the German championships. Emil Bilot in eighth. This guy is just an uber talent. He's just so strong. Ben Forbes, a member of the household, we're still calling it the household, all of us are the household, in ninth. He had a really strong bike, actually. I didn't talk about him too much but I saw him on both of the climbs, and he was quite relevant. And Elliot Labordette closing out the top 10. That's a really strong performance by him. He had a really good sprint battle for 10th place between him and Karel Dušek, who's a Czech athlete, beating him by only 2 seconds. I feel a bit bad for Karel because he was just so strong, and he's somebody who, coming from Czech, I'm quite familiar with, and it would have been really nice for him to top 10 because he's not necessarily regular. But still really, really strong showing from him. And I'll give a shout out to our boy Scott Anderson in 15th place. I think that's a really nice result as well. That's kind of it for XTERRA Germany. Do we have anything else to add? We should talk about the after party, maybe. Should we?
Yes,
should we
let me
mention that?
quickly run down.
Some of us have kids and can't go to parties.
Well,
some of us don't, and some of us can. So we're going to talk about them.
That sounds like a you problem. The after party in. Let me quickly, very briefly describe this. So in
episodes, God called me an aggressive woman.
You did.
You are.
I think we can clearly see here
Jesus.
who is aggressive.
Well, anyways.
Scott, go on. Go on.
So the XTERRA event village is all centered about this. It's not really like a tent, it's more like a massive sunroof, which is like 100 meters in diameter or something. And they've got loads of booths and beer wagons and so on around it, and there's one big stage. And basically, from 1800 hours when the prize giving starts until sometime in the morning, 2, 3, 4 a.m., there's a program and people start getting on the beers. And that's kind of what happened. Everybody just got absolutely on it. And that was the after party, I guess. There were some things that happened involving pants and clothing and so on, but we'll not go into detail here.
Can we talk about Kieran's dancing? He was dancing like a kangaroo. It's just insane.
Kieran had he had some intense dance moves, but let's maybe leave it at that. If anybody wants to see what it looks like, go check out my IG page, because I think I made a reel that pretty much conveys the energy, maybe. And there is one or two of Kieran's dance moves in there, so I can recommend come in just for the party. Even if you're not going to race, just show up for the party.
I was describing this to somebody, Kieran's dance moves, and I was talking about it's like as if a kangaroo who had no legs or no arms was trying to kind of attack you with his like shoulders. That's kind of what Kieran's dance moves are like. Like he just kind of aggressively jumps at you with his chest. It's just the most random stuff ever. I don't know what they teach these people in New Zealand.
I think that's not something you can teach. You get it given at birth. It'd be interesting to see how the Molveno after party holds up against Germany, but I think
I'm gonna get a babysitting and I will.
Yeah. So if anyone's up for being a babysitter for Aneta in Molveno, give us a shout. And I reckon that rounds it out, right?
Yep. I think that's all from us. See you guys later.
Next time.
Ciao.